And now I'm doing a lot now more for myself is what it started as, which is a weird part. So then I thought I was going to go do this thing for myself, write my own book, do my own thing, play guitar for myself, write a book so I could, I don't know, to get my ideas out there or just for myself to express myself. And
Yep.
then I'm going to go do this travel around the country for myself, interview a bunch of people, kind of sort of for my own career and maybe use
Yep.
that for public speaking.
Yep.
Right. But it's all turned out, it's not really about me. It's turned out that I'm doing all this for somebody else. It's for other people. I'm getting tremendous joy out of it. I'm getting everything I imagined, but I'm seeing it's way more than me.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top-quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back with another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to be here to bring you another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. I want to thank you for joining us on this journey as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. This is episode 203, and we've got Ken Stearns joining us as today's guest, and I absolutely love Ken's story. He spent his entire career in the corporate space, and when he entered into the world of retirement, he embarked on an audacious, brand new journey that was filled with new experiences and learnings, as well as a new purpose that was centered around being of service to others. I really think it's a great story that you'll all enjoy, so without any further ado, here's my chat with Ken Stearns. Ken, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with me, joining me today on the Audacious Living Podcast. First and foremost, thank you for taking the time, my friend. Thank you.
For sure, Adley. And a big thanks to having me. And you got this great energy. It's in the afternoon, so I'm just gonna ride your wave right now.
Let's do it. You have the one thing I'm always so appreciative and I'm blessed to be able to do this podcast is the different individual I have the opportunity to connect with, and it's such a blessing because each person has their own unique story that got them to where they are now, and for them to do the things that they're doing, and you are one of those people with this unique story. Interestingly enough, where it seems that you've retired from the corporate world, and it seems that life has just blossomed even more than when you were in the corporate setting. It seemed. I want to sort of talk about the work you do and the globe trotting that you've been up to.
Yeah, Audley, thanks. It is kind of strange. I do feel like I've entered my most productive era. Wow. And I'm on that threshold. I feel like I'm on the threshold. I've kind of stepped through a little bit, right? And I'm like, wow, there's a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to Ken Stearns than maybe I thought. Maybe
Right.
I was kind of putting all that energy in the wrong place, or not allowing it to kind of blossom up. And I think so many people probably listen to the show. You're in a corporate life, right? And I realized I was really good at what I did,
Right.
but it was partly because I was pouring. That's where all my energy went. I was really good at I was a really good strategist. I had a empathetic ear. I was a consulting leader, and that takes energy, and it takes your brain power, right?
Yep.
And now I know that was a resource that it was in the right place at the right time, and I was doing the right thing because that's what I was kind of paid to do, and I was on that road, and now I'm doing a lot now more for myself. Is what it started as, which is a weird part. So then I thought I was going to go do this thing for myself, write my own book, do my own thing, play guitar for myself, write a book so I could, I don't know, to get my ideas out there or just for myself to express myself. And then I'm going to go do this travel around the country for myself, interview a bunch of people, kind of sort of for my own career, and maybe use
Yeah.
that for public speaking.
Yep. Yep.
Right. But it's all turned out it's not really about me. It's turned out that I'm doing all this for somebody else. It's for other people. I'm getting tremendous joy out of it. I'm getting everything I imagined, but I'm seeing it's way more than me.
Ken, as you say that, I smile because I think about when I started this podcast, and the intent at that time was like, I want to create something to give to others, and encourage people to tap in their inner audaciousness and understand the significance of being bold and having courageous and taking risks and all of these things. But I walk away feeling blessed over and over again, thinking like, I feel like I'm robbing people because I'm the one walking away with all these blessings. And so as you say that, I kind of it resonates with me so much.
It's funny, but you had to do something. You had to put something on the table, right? You had to put the bet down.
That's right.
Without the bet, you're not going to get that back. You're not going to get the bonus, right? You hit the bonus rounds, and it's like the bet that it's like an evergreen bet.
Yes.
When you put yourself out there and you do make take those risky things and you do those crazy things. I was telling the story last night with my sister. Started off as kind of an innocent story when I was working overseas. And then it turned out to kind of remind me, I was even a lunatic back then. I mean, in the middle of my course, I was a very specific, like an insurance guy. Insurance management, insurance distribution. And I worked for a company that had crazy metrics and, super aspirational goals. And I had a chance to go work on the tech side of insurance.
Okay.
And I took it. I quit what I was good at, what I knew, and I joined a tech company. And I think, people still, my boss used to send me text messages, when are you coming home? When are you coming back? Like when are you gonna? And anyways, just to kind of realize that I've tried to do this, through my career. It's been, sometimes stupid enough, sometimes brave, sometimes a wrong move, but always forward, always kind of poking doors, putting my head inside rooms, maybe sometimes stepping in rooms I didn't belong.
Right.
But always risk putting a little bet out there. I lost some bets, I won some bets, but it's always betting on myself when I was trying to do it, right?
Yes.
And I think, eventually you do it enough, and I was at a place where I knew kind of how to do it. It's a skill. I think it's a skill. I look back now. This time, I had a lot of time to prepare. I've had a lot of bets I made on myself or things I've tried to do, and learning experiences. And I think this time I kind of got it right. But it is so. I think encouraging listeners, be audacious, right? And do stuff sometimes because you grow in those moments.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. And you take that step forward. And sometimes you talked about failing, and I would say that a failure is only a failure if you leave a situation without the lesson. Then you failed, right?
It is true.
But when you try something and it doesn't work out, but you can take from that experience and figure out a better way to do it better, then you haven't failed, right? You've just
it's a wrong word. Yeah, it is. It's a wrong word. That wrong word slipped out. But you're right. It's only somebody did ask me on this before I started. What if you fail?
Right.
On the pod, like this journey across the United States, you're going to launch this thing. And you change it. What if you fail? And I said, I only fail if I quit. So exactly what, to your point, if you don't take the lesson out of it, or if you give up, and you give up and you don't learn the lesson, then it might've been a failure. So I did a long career, insurance. I kind of alluded to in insurance, ended up overseas for 20 years. Doing that, had the opportunity to work, and it was an audacious move to take that. Obviously, to pack your family up and to move overseas is a little crazy and audacious. And and I did it. It's kind of weird. I look back and I'm like, wow, I did do that. And I got to live after that 5 countries. Work and live in 5 countries, and finally, it was time to kind of figure out that third act. What's going to be my third act in life? What do I want to do when I'm 70?
Nice.
As opposed to being, kind of driven. I followed the career that was laid out in front of me. I was a pretty good path follower.
Yep.
Not meaning what people were telling me what to do, but just being open to where the next role came, and not being too worrisome about it. But it was time for me to kind of have a little kind of to build that off ramp. And I started doing intentional things to kind of help start some energy in my own direction. First one was I bought a guitar when I was 52. And, I knew I wasn't going to be Bruce Springsteen or Chuck Berry. I was never going to play like that, but I could play for myself.
Yep.
I could do something therapeutic and something I might enjoy doing when I'm 70 if I get okay at it. So I did that, and I committed to taking lessons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm going to take lessons, and I'm going to do it 2 years, and then I'll make a choice whether I go or don't go. But I'm not going to give up in 6 months. No damn way.
Right.
And then I can buy a nice guitar.
Nice.
So I kind of bound myself to the move. So I didn't give myself many ways to quit. Right. It was going to be a failure. Right. There's no failing on this one. I was going to learn something or play guitar. I was going to learn to play guitar or learn something from the process.
Sure. But
that move led me to meet somebody who then changed my life. And that's a powerful thing when I look back on it. I did something, and I did it with a contract with myself, with a commitment level. I did it kind of in the universe, right? It's out there in the universe. And I put a 2-year horizon. I planted this flag 2 years away from my life, where I had no idea where I was going to be, what I'm going to do.
Right.
But I put the flag out there, and I said, I'm going to tie myself to that outcome, which is I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, you gave it your best shot, Ken. You did what you said would you do. You gave it for 2 years. You played as practiced, good enough if you can feel good about it, and you can put this thing away. And that's what I wanted to have that conversation. And I think when I did that and put that out there, stuff happened.
Okay.
I met this guy, and I didn't meet anybody. I met the bastard son of a priest.
Oh. Wow.
And he was my guitar teacher.
Wow. Interesting.
And from that conversation, he led me back to some writings I had started in my travels. And we picked up these writings to write a song.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote my first song, and that created a fever around the book that I had started.
Okay.
And so meeting this, buying the guitar led me to see this guy, and this guy led me to songs, which was totally unrelated. And it forced me to go to my drawer and pull out this 5-year-old manuscript, air quote manuscript, and pull this thing out and see if we could scratch a song out of it. And I enjoyed that so much. I got the book back out, and I started building the book.
Amazing.
The book. Yeah. And the book idea, and I had this idea to travel the country when I was retired. And then somewhere I got this crazy idea of a podcast. And then all three layered on top of each other. And I used the book to write the questions for my show. So I used 444 pre-printed fixed questions, and I stuffed them into a jar. And so that's kind of my story in a super short, abbreviated version. But it's this. I think it's a little, 50-year-old dude walking into a Las Vegas Guitar Center and plopping down $1,500 on a guitar is pretty audacious, and dragging it back to his apartment in Bangkok to meet a Filipino, and just so I think it is kind of throwing a little caution to the wind sometimes, and following your heart, following your gut. I say your gut, but following the signs, following those breadcrumbs.
I love it. And I love a whole bunch of reasons, but the part for me that gets really excited is, again, you operate from the spirit of audaciousness, and you go out and you just try something. You had no idea, you had no clue how it would work, you had no clue how it would turn out. You took that leap into the unknown, and which I applaud you for, Ken, because that's good enough to hold back a lot of people. But you take that fear, you go into the unknown, and then all of a sudden, great things are happening, and you're able to do great things and make a difference in powerful ways. And all that wouldn't have been possible if you didn't take that first step.
Yeah. It's really true. It's really true. It is that story with my sister last night, kind of when you were talking, just reminded me of the kind of the end of the conversation. And I don't know how I got down the story, but I was telling her about this, while I was in that role, I had there was a kind of a regulation, a government regulation that was kind of helping frame our business. And I had this, I would call it a pretty genius distribution idea. And it would affect 2 countries. And if I had been able to put that thing in, I mean, it would have been incredible. Like we would have killed not the numbers, but I mean, I would have made a lot of money. We'd have had sales, the sales numbers would have been great. Probably my career would have been in that business forever. Like I would have been there for 20 years. And my sister looks at me and goes, wow. But none of that happened because of regulation change, right? Like overnight, everything changed.
Right.
And she just looked at me and she goes, but you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today.
That's right. That's right.
That's
powerful. That's powerful. And I love the whole idea of taking that risk. You're going to get my attention always with that one, taking a risk and taking a chance, and just sort of leaving. You're almost like you left your life behind to start this brand new thing.
I just, when I quit, this is probably great for the audience too. A lot of build up and a lot of planning for me.
Yep.
To get to that point, right? I was very intentional. And this, because I sometimes I'm just a little bit more, jump off the bridge and then kind of go, how far is it to the bottom? As I scream on the way down. Sometimes I'm like that. But this one I was very, very measured and very methodical.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm in my apartment and I was living in Vietnam at the time, and I quit and I made the call and I hung up the phone, man. And the emotion just, swept over me, that releasing all of that. And that you're just releasing so much. You don't know how much you're holding on, like holding on to that job and the smiling on Monday morning, even though it's tough to get up. And, we push down so much to get through the days and the careers. And, we love our family. Yes. We do it because sometimes we need the money. Sometimes we're stuck. Sometimes people listening, you can't, it's not easy. And I completely appreciate you, and keep going, man. Hold on. It's, but eventually it is good to let it go. And I had that moment, and out of that, I was like crying, I just basically picked up my iPhone and I was like, I have to just share with myself. I never shared with anybody. I'm never showing that video to anybody, but I just watched it the other day and I was like, oh, also just like, wow. But anyway, I called it being a free man.
Nice. Yeah,
I was a free man. And so part of that song that I end up writing a song, and part of it is that part where we end up in the corporate life and we're stuck in there. But I kind of, part of it is to come back to what you just said, which is, I look at, I look at the cost I paid. Yes. And the irony of throwing it all away, and we do pay such a big cost, and to throw it all, and I was throwing all that away.
Yes.
And just the, like really all that stuff I did, all the sacrifices and everything else. And I got this great job in this suit. And I could hold on to this thing. I mean, this is mine for another 10 years.
Yep.
And I'm going to throw it all away.
Right. That's not what you wanted.
Oh man, that's not what I did all this for. Like all those times I sucked it up, and then I stand up there and I just look at it and I toss up the suit and put it in the garbage can. And that's that recognition, right? That recognition that, only you can save yourself from you in the end.
I love that.
Right.
Only you can save yourself from you.
Yeah.
Oh man, what would you say is the biggest lesson or takeaway from you with your experience there?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is kind of what we just touched on, Adelaide, which is that intentionalness. The biggest lesson I learned, and I didn't know what the word was at the time, but it's somebody had kind of brought this up, the word, to me a few times, kind of finally stuck, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I was. I was very intentional.
Yes.
I really thought everything out. I shared with people, with confident, with people, my confident coaches and confidants, family. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you're thinking about doing something, you want to be audacious. It's
Yeah.
good to be audacious.
Yes. Yes.
Do it from a strong footing. Do it, have gone through it mentally 100 times. I had 6 whiteboards on my wall for 2 years
Okay. Okay. Wow.
down my hallway.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to the kitchen or bathroom or bedroom without seeing one of the walls, without one of the boards. And and I use there to wash, erase, write, wash, erase, write, stare in my, stare there in my towel in the morning with my cup of coffee and just kind of look at it all and go, okay, and erase it, start over. And so just be, for people is plan something good and be audacious and plan it out well.
Yes. Yes. The plan is important, and it's key to have absolutely. So I'm glad to hear that you at least touch on that. Give me an idea, Ken, like how far we travel, like how many countries have you been to? How long have you been? Yeah. What's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, my corporate career is cool. It did, like I said, live 5 countries. I probably worked in 15 or, 15-ish. You can say really probably properly worked. And all over it, Southeast Asia, from Japan, down to New Zealand, Australia, all the way over to India. Even did a little bit of work in Sri Lanka for travel and stuff. So it's great, for work. But in the States, I've come back. I came back in January last year. So just January last year, I came back to the U.S.
Nice.
And started my trip up in Olympia, Washington on April 4th.
Nice.
And I did, so the idea is to go to Adelaide's. So Audacious should also, moves, plans, but also like ideas, right? So I'm going to 111 cities.
Wow.
And I'm interviewing 444 people.
Wow.
And so I'm about halfway through. I made it all the way across the upper half of the continental. I made it, went up to Maine, and I squirted down the eastern seaboard.
Yep.
And I'm here in Atlanta. And so I'm starting to, well, actually today I had my first show in 6 weeks. About 8 weeks.
Wow.
First show in 8 weeks, first recording, absolutely fantastic. Met a great guy,
Good.
Totally inspired. I mean, I sat down in the interview. I was actually a little bit nervous, right? I hadn't driven the van anywhere. I hadn't opened I was totally out of my routine. And it was great. I met a great person, and just, the universe put me in front of the right guy, the right day. I really needed this person. And it was amazing. So I'm back on the road. Nice. If anybody's in Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and then if you're anywhere along that way, find me, and I'd love to meet you face to face and get you in front of the jar.
There you go. Let's talk about the jar. Let's dive into that a bit more, will you?
Sure. So the book, I think can't talk about the jar without talking about the book.
Okay.
Because I'll give it a full kind of picture. I mentioned there's 444 questions in the jar.
Okay.
And what I wanted to do, Adlai, was give people an opportunity to tell their story without me being an interviewer.
Okay.
It's much like your style on this show, right? You've got a really good relaxed style, and you just kind of follow the guest and kind of point them a little bit more in the right direction again. Yeah, sure. So I knew that I didn't have maybe that experience, or I wasn't sure I had the skill. So, I wanted to, and just this other idea came to me. So the structure of the book is there's basically 12 letters, 12 topics, and 4 letters for each one. And I'm writing these letters to God and asking questions, about life stuff. And it's kind of testing my theories. I'm an old 50-something-year-old, and I think I know something by now, damn it. And I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to throw it up there to God and see what they say, And so the first part is, I looked at it, kind of the structure was book of self. If I'm going to be a kid, really it's essentially, what is a good human? How do you, what's the manual down here, God? I got the Bible thing, but there's a lot of stories and stuff. Can we talk English? Yeah. Let's get into some regular human stuff. So I said, okay, as a person, I've got my yesterdays, my todays, and my tomorrows. Nice. All this stuff between our ears, right? I call it the battlefield of the mind.
Yes.
because that's where everything takes place.
Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful not get sucked into it.
Yeah, and it's all, and that's your past, your present, your future, and then it's between you and between you and another person. Kind of that relationship piece. It's acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion. And those are the tool sets that I think you need as a person going through with your interpersonal kind of relationships. A little bit bigger circle is the book. I call it the Book of All inside the Book of God, and it's love, karma, and service. It's
Gotcha.
kind of this humanity thing. We gotta love each other. At the end, love is just drives everything.
Nice.
We got to leave everything better than we found it and treat people like they want to be treated. And, you got to be in service to your fellow human in some way. You can't just be a net taker.
Yes.
Right. We have to be a giver in some way, shape, or form.
Give me an idea.
Everybody.
Give me an idea, Ken, of how we can give or what we can give.
Yeah. So and this is a great thing. That chapter started off as charity.
Right.
And then I quickly realized, one is I'm not super fond of many charities, because most of them are administrative monsters. And,
right.
But there are a lot of good ones, but a lot of them do, they're net consumers in a way of energy and love. So anyway, it wasn't about charity. It was about service.
Okay.
For me, it was really about service. And, there's different levels of it. And everybody, one of the things that I was really blown away by, when I was in India, you'd see, I've been some of the poorest places I would think on the planet. I'm sure Africa's, got its another level of poor perhaps.
Sure.
But, India's got some levels of poor that were pretty shocking to me. And other parts of Southeast Asia, poor. But no matter how poor somebody was, they always had grace. They always had something left for somebody else.
Yes.
And even the most crippled people I've seen have got something for somebody, a love. They can't see, they can't walk. They're basically, they need care 24/7, but somehow they've got something they're giving back to people. Almost all of us humans have got some capacity to give something back.
Yes.
And not all of us can be net positive. There's a lot of people that do need help, right? There are people that need our help, 100%. But generally, I think the idea is to get through those four letters. I really go through what is service. Is it a charity? And I kind of get away from charity thing being, really the place where that humanity approach is. We need those, but it's not really. It really comes down to individuals being of service to mankind.
Yeah, I like
if I was to take the four letters and boil them down to a sentence, that would be it.
Being of service. I like that a lot because it's, I think that we're, too often, people think that we are here by ourselves, for ourselves. We achieved our greatness on our own. We're self-made individuals. And, that's not the case. We've gotten help along the way. We've all gotten some sort of assistance, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, because we're not here by ourselves.
I mean, you come in with nothing.
Yes.
We leave with nothing. And, that's all you need to know. Yes. So, you're going to give it all away. And you may not have money, but you're going to give it all away. Your energy is going to move on. Can't kill energy. We can't make new energies, and we can't destroy the energy that's inside us.
Right.
So we're going to be somewhere else one day.
Yes.
Might as well try to figure out how to do it in a really beautiful way.
Got you.
And I think the service side of it, for me, is why we're here. It's the human part, right? It's the part we can see and touch and feel. We can have the emotions. It's kind of where I was at on that part of the book.
Good. I would imagine you learned things like I can think of things like the significance of acceptance in our lives, right? There's things that are going to happen that we can't change. We've got to accept that. I think of the compassion or grace that we have to extend to other people, how significant that is.
Absolutely.
we're going to be wronged by people at some point or another.
Yeah.
We can stay angry and mad, or extend them grace and forgive them. And so these are all important traits that we need to learn. I wonder if you could start commenting on the significance of why we need to do things like that, and exercise compassion and show forgiveness and be accepting of the fault of others.
Yeah, I was, the acceptance one, I was struggling with trying to articulate what it even meant to me. There's so many, I think the times right now, I think we see there is so much growth in what people are willing to share, right? They're, from their sexual identities to the political spectrum, there's so much happening that's really stretching people's normality, right? What they grew up with, their frame of mind, their ability to get their heads around life that moves fast, information, like I said, social norms, growing, bending. How do you get your head around that stuff? And, for me, I think that's part of where that acceptance part came, was trying to understand what it means. And I did get my head around it. I think it was understanding people's point of view and their life reality, their life experience,
right.
Really standing in people's shoes, the best you can, and inside their head. And what does it mean to be them growing up, looking through their eyes, walking their streets as a kid, in their shoes in the home. And then I can accept people. I can oh shit, if if that was my life view, I probably would be that, or think like that, or act like that. And I can accept that. I may not agree with the outcomes, right? They may take it in certain directions that I'm like, yeah, but that's not something I would do. Right. So you could, what I mean? So the actions, I think, is a part of the accepting part, or the belief systems even, I don't have to agree with it, or adopt it. Right. I don't have to adopt it, but I can recognize how you got there. And I can, as a human, I can say, I understand. I can accept you for who you are.
Right.
100%. And and that's also, for me, when I got there, was so peaceful.
Yes.
Because it's not confrontational to me. It's not they're wrong and I'm right.
No, not at all.
Right? You can get away from that, because it is a lot of right. Actually, right? It's kind of like who's right and who's wrong, whose position's true, who's not. And when you get here, it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's their truth. That's right.
And I think the sooner we can accept that, the better we are in the long run, because we save the energy and time trying to convince them of that they're wrong.
This is the best part, right? Is exactly, as soon as you figure that out, it's so liberating, because you're just all that energy. You're like, cool, that's you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And again, it's the perspective. I just love, a big fan of the perspective, and so I like that a lot.
And forgiveness, same way. I think just a little bit on forgiveness, because I think that one, man, people need to get their heads around it. It's one of the most powerful parts. I think that and love. If I was to pick a few chapters, I think the love one is super powerful. But forgiveness, right? I mean, you touched on it. You got to let go of stuff.
Yes.
You can't hold on to stuff.
Yes, because
it's not about you.
No, it'll hold you back, really, right? If you're not.
Yeah. I mean, it's the worst poison. You're angry at somebody for doing something to you, which to send you into a tizzy and keeps your brain completely in a spin. And meanwhile, the only person that's you should be double angry at that person. Actually, I can accept it if you're twice angry, once for getting in your head, and the second time for spinning around in my head. Then I can accept your anger.
Right. That's actually quite funny. And you're right. You're absolutely right.
As long as you're pissed off twice, I'm okay. But if you're just mad the one time, I really don't understand.
Yeah, we got to work on that.
Yeah,
we got to work on that. That's awesome. I would imagine, your journeys and your writings, your podcast. Actually, let's talk about the JAR podcast.
Yeah. So it is. So I took those questions, and the idea was, the idea was to call it the Project 444.
Okay.
And just because this number was popping in, was coming in front of me, it was in my universe a lot. 444, 444. So eventually I got the hint, and and started doing everything with the number 4. including making 444 questions and dividing that by 4. And that's the number of cities I go to. It just got really bananas, right? It got out of control. But I was sharing sharing the idea what I was doing with several people. And one was this really smart British guy, clever marketing guy. I had a white paper. I had a 14-page white paper I was circulating. I was audacious, but I was intentional.
Yes. Yeah.
And I get on the phone with him and he goes, well, I see this large jar, bespoke jar between you and the guest, flowing with questions. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. It's the jar. The show is called The Jar.
That's right. Makes sense.
It didn't hit me at all until he said it. And he didn't say call the show The Jar, but just his description of us sitting together thunderstruck me. And I was like, dang, that's the name of the show. How could I not see that?
Yes.
So anyway, the name of the show was born. And so essentially what we do is we sit down. I've got the jar. I have the questions, and you and I would be sitting at your kitchen table. So I go from city to city. I go 4 days in a city, and then I go to the next city. We find our guests through Facebook, or I pick them up at bars, or I curate them off LinkedIn. Yeah, it's a bit of a combination. I got some of my best guests are from bars.
Too funny.
And I sit down, I talk to people, in restaurants and bars, and, we chit chat, and I tell them what I'm doing, and I invite them to the show. And so when I show up to your house, we set up the microphones. It's field recording. There's no setup. I got 2 mics and the recorder, and we sit down, and this big jar that I had made, I commissioned 4 jars.
Yeah.
Big jar sits in front of us, and you pull one question and you read it and you share your answer.
Mm.
And then you pull another question and you read it. You pull another question, you read it. Man, I had the gentleman today, and the interpretation of the question is up to the person, not just the answer.
Right.
But even how they read the question.
Right.
Which I that part escaped me. And it's been the most wonderful part of the show.
Beautiful. I love it.
And this morning, this guy, my guest, Amrit, he got a good question. Like for him, he's so he was, like I said this morning, I was so inspired. Like we talked, your guest, my guest, we're so inspired. And he gets a question. What is the color of your heart?
Wow. That's a deep question.
Yeah. And man, he took it and he broke it down, and he's like, well, color, let's talk about color. And he's like, you can't, what is color? When you see color, right? When you see red, I only know red because someone told me it's red.
Right.
Right. And you look at the sky, it's blue for you, but it might be orange for me because I'm at a sunset. Right. And so, he just talks really this very in-depth answer. And he brought it back. I don't want to spoil it, but he does bring the answer around to an incredible place. And, really, and when I wrote the question is, I'm talking about black or red or, or yellow. Is it, are you fearful? That would be my imagination, that what people would do with the question. But to have a guest look at the question and see something such, he looked at, he's like, this question deserves respect. I have to hold on a second. And I was like, it's kind of easy, bro. It's either black or red. Yeah, it's not a trick question. Take your pick. And he's like, sorry, son, it's not like that. It's a powerful question. Let me tell you, let me take you down a rabbit hole.
It very much is. And I'm glad it's the one that you asked. So, I mean, that's important.
It's his question.
Right. So
it's his question.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a cool thing about some of the things that happen in the jar is, one is I don't ask the question. It's their question.
Right.
And there's some fate to it, right? Because you're pulling out of 400, you're going to pull a question. And we only went through 6 questions today. Wow. And those were all his questions. And he said it at the end. He said he was really good because he also articulated what I get to see and the power of the jar. which is people articulate things they think about, but they never verbalize. There's something extremely powerful about verbalizing your thoughts, crystallizing and verbalizing and hearing them come back into your ears from your mouth. Your mind spins them up and some kind of gravity spiller and pulls those words out, and they come out your mouth and you hear it.
Right.
And it goes back into your head, right?
Yeah. Where'd I get that from?
There's quite often about, I think he's going to listen to that later and go, no idea where I got some of that stuff, but it was beautiful. It's really cool. Those two things, me seeing the questions come alive and people articulating their thoughts, crystallizing them, for the universe to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the idea. I'm a big fan of sharing. I like the idea of sharing your experiences, your turmoils, your challenges, your victories,
yes,
your accomplishments, because it can be so much to inspire those around you just by me stepping into my audacious self or you stepping into yours and traveling the world.
Yeah, it's so much fun, right?
Oh man, it truly, truly is. And Ken, I think this is awesome. I really appreciate the work you're doing. Let's give the listeners the title of the book one more time.
Yeah, and the title of the book is Dear God, Letters to God. You can find that on, I think it's on Amazon. It's also Barnes and Noble does a little bit better job on the print. It's a print on demand.
Yep.
I do have on my website, I have the first book, the three topics, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, called The Book of Self. That's on my website. So if people go to thejar.live, they can put their email in and we'll give them the link for the PDF.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. So I think you can get an instant taste.
No, I think it's great. And again, the whole idea of stepping in, being bold enough to step into what you're intended on is just such an incredible thing. Ken, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for being here and chatting. I think you've got an awesome, love the work. Love the audacity of what you've done.
Let's be audacious.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Audley. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate the platform to share my story.
Awesome. Well, take care. All the best, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Back we are here on the podcast. Much thanks and appreciation goes out to Ken for stopping by and sharing his amazing, or I would call audacious story. I think the journey that he's on is an incredible one. I actually had an opportunity to check out his website, and it says to date he's visited 111 cities, which is absolutely outstanding. I do remember his book, Dear God, Letters to God. It is available, and I'd encourage you to pick up yourself a copy. And since we're encouraging, I'd encourage you to check out his podcast, The Jar, for great interactive dialogue. I had an opportunity to check it out myself, and Ken does a fantastic job. Keep up the great work, my friend. You are truly making a difference. When I reflect on the conversation, I so much appreciated the things that Ken had to share. But if there's just one thing I take from the chat that we had, it would have to be this. Life is an incredible journey with endless opportunities for growth, self-discovery, and personal development. One of the most enriching ways to make the most of this journey is by stepping out of your comfort zone and embracing new things and experiences. Whether it's trying a new hobby, exploring a different culture, or challenging yourself with unfamiliar tasks, the benefits of venturing into the unknown are quite profound. Let's look at some of the advantages that come with embracing new experiences and why it's essential for our personal growth and overall well-being. Trying new things and experiences broadens your horizons, allowing you to gain a deeper understanding of what's going on around you in the world. By stepping out of your comfort zone, you expose yourself to different perspectives, ideas, and cultures. Whether it's traveling to a foreign country, engaging in a new hobby, or picking up a skill, each new experience adds to your knowledge and enhances your understanding of the diverse world we live in. Stepping into uncharted territory fosters personal growth and development. When you try things, you challenge yourself to adapt, learn, and overcome. Obstacles get in your way, but they don't stop you. And the process of acquiring new skills or knowledge boosts your overall confidence, expands your abilities, and strengthens your character. Trying new things often involves facing fears and stepping out of our comfort zone, and we all have fears and can relate to this. It's in these moments of uncertainty and vulnerability that we have an opportunity to build our resilience. By pushing your boundaries past and embracing new experiences, you develop the courage to take risks, learn from your failures, and bounce back stronger than before. When you expose yourself to unfamiliar situations, your brain adapts and develops new neural connections. This cognitive flexibility leads to enhanced creativity and problem-solving skills. By embracing new activities or hobbies, you engage your brain in different ways, encouraging innovative thinking and the ability to approach challenges from fresh perspectives. And then lastly, trying new things and experiences allows you to explore a wide range of activities, helping you discover new passions and a sense of purpose. It's through these explorations that you may stumble upon a hobby, a career path, or a cause that truly resonates with your heart and soul. Each new experience brings you closer to understanding what brings you joy, fulfillment, and a sense of meaning in life. The benefits of trying new things and experiences are far-reaching and transformative. From expanding your horizons and fostering personal growth to building resilience and enhancing creativity, each new endeavor adds richness and depth to your life. So step outside that comfort zone, take that leap of faith, and embark on a journey of growth and exploration. Embrace the unknown, and you'll be amazed at the incredible, audacious rewards that wait for you on the other side. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudacious.com, enter in your email address, and you'll be alerted every time we've got brand new content that comes out. And it's a great way to stay connected. Always got to send out a shout out and love to our amazing, audacious viewers and our listeners that help keep this podcast going. All those lovers of audaciousness, it's so much appreciated. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.